What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the JuiceBox presented by Lock City. It's Munz here today. Hoping you're all having a great week and weekend. Happy Easter to everyone who celebrates. Today we have episode 43 of the JuiceBox, and in this one we'll be taking a look into the first round of the NHL Playoffs. But before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone that you can join our premium tier Discord at wap.com/lockcity for only $5 a month. This gets you access to every cheat sheet every day across all active major sports, access to premium picks from all 9 of our pro cappers, and tons of sports-specific and stat-specific data points on a daily basis to help you become a better sports bettor. That's wap.com/lockcity. Get instant access for only 16 cents a day. Also, if you want some of the best odds in the industry, we highly suggest checking out thunderpick.io. Additionally, you can use our promo link tinyurl.com/lcthunder to get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600 on your first deposit. That's right, $600, 100% deposit bonus. They accept majority of major cryptocurrencies, and you can now deposit using a credit card or a Visa debit. Okay, enough of that. Let's get it going here. The 2025 NHL Playoffs begin April 19th, which is tomorrow, Saturday, and we have some very interesting matchups in the first round, so let's dive into it here. In the West, we're looking at Winnipeg versus St. Louis, Dallas versus Colorado, Vegas versus Minnesota, and LA versus Edmonton. In the East, we have Toronto versus Ottawa in the Battle of Ontario, Tampa Bay versus Florida in the Battle of Florida, Washington versus Montreal, and Carolina versus New Jersey. So first here, we're going to take a look at the Western Conference. We're going to look at the first round matchups in that division first. First up, we got Winnipeg versus St. Louis. So Winnipeg holds the home ice advantage in the first 2 games of this series. Marks the 8th time the Jets have made it to the playoffs since 2011, and half of those appearances they've lost in the first round. They've made it to the conference semifinals and the finals once, but the last 2 seasons they had first round exits. They had a pretty consistently successful season to be being first in the league, secure the President's Trophy, but potentially securing that President's Trophy curse as well. So we don't know. We'll see how it goes. See how it goes for them here. St. Louis has made the playoffs 7 times in the last 10 seasons, with, of course, the Stanley Cup under their belts. Their season was a bit shakier. They finished last in the wildcard spot, almost getting knocked out by Calgary to make the cut for the playoffs, but they're here, and with recent Four Nations champion, at least Jordan Binnington, in the crease for them, things are looking pretty good. They missed the playoffs the last 2 years, first 2-round exits as well in the past 10 seasons. They're looking to prove themselves, right? They finished last in the wildcard spot. People are doubting them out, but historically, how Winnipeg plays, they tend to see an exit on the half the time on the first round. So I don't know. We'll see. They got something to prove, definitely, and things are looking up for them. But we'll see. These teams have faced off 4 times this season, with Winnipeg taking a 3-1 series lead. Yeah, I don't know. Those games were pretty close. Most of them were 1-2 difference in score, despite a 4-1 win from St. Louis. Kind of a statement win there for St. Louis, but you could kind of say that Winnipeg kind of owns them this season, beating them 3-1 in their series matchups. So there's that to consider. Winnipeg is facing a couple significant losses to their roster with Nikolaj Ehlers and Gabriel Vilardi. Ehlers is still week to week. Vilardi should be back in the lineup soon. He's day-to-day right now. If he's not in the first game, I think he'll definitely be in the second game. I was kind of looking into his injury status today, and it didn't seem too serious, so we should definitely see him back this series, but Ehlers is definitely out for a bit longer. I believe I already had an MCL sprain. I could be inaccurate on that, but I'm pretty certain I read that he had an MCL sprain, so I don't think that we'll see him this series. If they go for a deep run, maybe we'll see him pop up in the roster, but they got to make it out of the first round first. The most significant loss for St. Louis is Robert Thomas. He's day-to-day. Could most likely miss the first game, but I couldn't see him missing more than that. His injury didn't seem too crazy, but obviously we don't know the severity of it truly. So we'll see if he does play in the first game. I don't think he will, but I definitely think that we'll see him back in the roster for St. Louis in this playoff series. Looking at the goaltending, as I said before, we have Four Nations winner Jordan Binnington in the crease for St. Louis. He comes into this series finishing this season with a 2.69 goals against average and a .900 save percentage. On the other side, we have arguably the best goalie in the league currently in Connor Hellebuck. He comes into the series with a 2.0 goals against average and a .925 save percentage, which is pretty outstanding. I'm pretty sure he finished top in the league. It comes down to defense and goaltending in this one. I kind of see Winnipeg holding the edge here. They do say playoffs are basically a new season. Throw regular stats out the window, but we still have to consider Winnipeg kind of owning St. Louis 3-1 in their series this season, with the most recent being this month, actually, without Ehlers. So Winnipeg is still sitting pretty strong. They're sitting at minus 225 as the favorites to win this series, and personally, I think I'm going to take them to kind of break their curse here and bust out of the first round and kind of go for a decent run. I think that we'll see them win this series in 5, maybe 6 games, but definitely making it past this first round and breaking their curse of consistently losing in the first round. So yeah, taking the Winnipeg Jets to win that series at minus 225. Moving on, still in the Western Conference, we have Dallas versus Colorado. Now, this should be a great close series. Let's look at the Dallas Stars here. In the past 10 seasons, they have seen the playoffs 7 times, and historically, this team is used to having deep runs. They got a young roster on their hand. They'll be looking to keep the trend going. They succeeded to the conference finals in the last 2 seasons, so these young Bucks on their team are pretty familiar with the playoffs, although they fell short in both of those series, of course, not making it past the conference finals. Colorado had a bit of a whirlwind to start the season, going from goaltending issues, bit of injuries, trading one of their top forwards, and of course, the status of the long-anticipated return of Gabriel Landeskog. Also, they got, Valeri Nichushkin back from the player assistance program or whatever the hell he was on. The guy can't keep his nose out of a bag and keep it clean. But he has so far this season, and he's been doing pretty decent, but all eyes are on the return of Gabriel Landeskog. Colorado, in the past 10 seasons, have seen the playoffs 8 times. They've made the playoffs the last 7 seasons in a row, including this one, with the Stanley Cup under their belts as well. Although they have made 2 first-round exits, but other than that, they've had some pretty deep runs. This season, these 2 teams faced off 3 times, Colorado winning the series 2-1. The only one that was kind of close, I believe, was a 4-3 win for Colorado. Other than that, there were pretty decent leads for each team to win, Dallas and Colorado, in those other 2 games. Looking at injuries, Dallas is facing a significant loss in Miro Heiskanen and Jason Robinson being day-to-day. We need to wait for some more information. I tried to dig for some info on them. I don't know if we'll see Jason Robinson. Things weren't looking too good. I believe he was leaving the arena with a knee brace just a few days ago in their last game of the season, I believe it was. So 2 big losses for them. Colorado sees Nichushkin, Drouin, and Lehkonen as some of the most significant day-to-days, but things are kind of looking up as their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, finished his conditioning stint in the AHL, I believe it was, and he's preparing for the long-awaited return to his Avs in this playoffs. So this would be a huge swing for them if it happens, especially in this series, not only because Dallas is a good team that can keep this close, but they also acquired, Mikko Rantanen from Carolina, the team that Colorado traded him to for Martinikas and somebody else that's slipping my mind right now. But so there might be some sour taste in each of their mouths, the Colorado Avs and Mikko Rantanen. I don't know. This is going to definitely be a very, very interesting series to watch. I probably won't miss a game of this series, to be quite honest, and I'm not a fan of either of these teams. So looking at the goaltending, very close in this one. Mackenzie Blackwood is coming into the series with a 2.45 goals against average and a .912 save percentage, while Jake Ottinger is coming into this series with a .259 goals against average and a .900 save percentage. So pretty decently close here in goaltending. 2 good goaltenders in the crease for each team. It's going to be close. It's going to be tough for them to get it past the goalies and get it deep in the crease there. Colorado is sitting as the favorite for this series. The last time I checked, I do believe this series will go 7 games. I think it's going to be very back and forth. Nichushkin, Drouin, and Lehkonen should all be coming into the lineups for this. I didn't really see anything too crazy about them while I was looking up their injuries earlier today. So I think it's just mainly because of rest, maybe nursing some minor injuries, but I don't think that we'll see them out, especially in this first game. I'd have to probably take Colorado to win this series at minus 152. It was minus 152 when I was looking up this earlier today. It could have changed by now. That's really let me load up the odds right here while we're live. Might as well. The odds could have changed for Winnipeg as well. Yeah, so Colorado actually improved to minus 170. So even more of the favorites there. Winnipeg stayed the same. So yeah, those first two series, I'm taking Winnipeg, and in this one that we were just discussing, I'm looking at Colorado taking it in a very close 6, most likely 7-game series in this one. Should be very, very close, very entertaining, very thrilling. I highly suggest you guys definitely catching a couple games of this series at least. Especially if you're new to hockey, if you're new to the sport, that's definitely a good series too to get you going. I think it's going to be a banger. But let's move on here to our third series of the Western Conference. We have the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Minnesota Wild. So despite the rankings, I believe this should be a good one. We'll get into it right here. Vegas came into this league. They were immediately good, only missing the playoffs once. They have a Stanley Cup. They're still a new team. I know the Kraken are the newest team to join the league, but Vegas is still pretty new into this league. Like I said, they've only missed playoffs once. They have a Stanley Cup under their belt. They made the conference finals, Stanley Cup finals. They're forced to be reckoned with. Minnesota, on the other hand, has made the playoffs 8 times in the past 10 seasons with 6 first-round exits, 3 in the past 4 seasons, while missing the playoffs last year as well. They're definitely a team that feel like they have something to prove here, facing a bit of injury issues throughout the season, but they seem to be back and ready to roll to the Minnesota team that would have placed higher in this season despite the injuries. Looking at their matchups this season, they faced each other 3 times, with Vegas winning all 3 games. The first was a close one at 3-2, but the other 2 were 3+ goal blowouts for Vegas winning. Kind of unfortunate there. It's worth noting, though, that Minnesota went majority of this season without their top player in Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov, who scored 2 goals in his first game back from injury. So that's worth noting right there. Including onto that, no notable injuries to discuss for Minnesota. They're all healthy and ready to roll. Vegas, on the other hand, sees Ivan Barbashev, Mark Stone, Noah Hannafin, and Thomas Hertl all day-to-day, but all of them, besides Hertl, were due to rest. Hertl's resting, is returning from an injury. We could possibly see him sit the first game, but I don't think so. I think Hertl will be ready to go, ready to be in the lineup, and ready to play. I think we see him active as well with Barbashev, Stone, and Hannafin. Goaltending is definitely close in this one. You have Adin Hill for the Golden Knights. He finished this season with a 2.47 goals against average and a .905 save percentage. On the other hand, for Minnesota, we have Philip Gustafsson. He comes into this series with a 2.56 goals against average and a .914 save percentage. So good goaltending on both sides. It's going to take a lot of shots to get one pass. They're going to have to get dirty, really dig in deep, and look for those lucky bounces to maybe get it going and kind of break down the other goaltender's confidence to sink some more nastier wrist shots or slap shots in. Looking at both of these teams, they're both very talented. And Minnesota is coming into this playoffs with something to prove, especially going up against Bettman's Golden team and the Golden Knights. That would be really, really a big statement if they could beat them in this series and push past the first round for the first time in 4 years, So they got a lot of pressure on their shoulders. Meanwhile, Vegas, on the other hand, is kind of cruising into this one, looking to show the league that they will always be a force and not a team to take lightly, especially with their always stacked roster since they've joined the league. First year, they're kind of shaky, their roster, but they really, really pulled it together and had a really good first season. So looking at the historical stats here, although they're not too historical, I want to take Minnesota, but unfortunately I have to sit with Vegas in this series. They're sitting as the favorites at minus 235. That hasn't changed at all throughout the day, so I see them taking this one in 5, maybe 6 games. Yeah, 5, maybe 6 games. I can't see them taking the sweep. Minnesota's definitely going to win at least one, so yeah, Vegas to win that series right there. I hate to say it, but Vegas, definitely Vegas. All right, looking at our last matchup in the Western Conference, should be a very interesting one. The Los Angeles Kings versus the Edmonton Oilers. The LA Kings won the Stanley Cup in 2012 and 2014, but have only made the playoffs 6 times in the last 10 seasons, seeing first-round exits in the last 3 seasons. So they shaped up a lot this year. I think they're a much stronger team than they were the past 3 seasons, but we'll see in their play style in the first game and in this first series in total. Edmonton has a chip on their shoulders after pushing a Game 7 and losing the Stanley Cup final last season. They have something to prove. They got redemption on their minds. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Edmonton. They had a pretty shaky season, honestly. It wasn't the greatest. Wasn't what we were expecting from them. But like I said, they got something to prove. And as I said earlier, regular season stats go out the window for the playoffs. Playoffs are a whole new season. So let's look into this one a little bit more. LA has owned Edmonton this season, beating them 3 out of 4 games with 2 shutouts this month. The most recent win just being a few days ago on April 15th, I believe it was. It was a 3-0 shutout. There's talk around the league of Edmonton walking around injured, and looking at the injury list, it seems to be true. They have 9 players on the injury reserve, with Hyman, Draisaitl, Evander Kane, and Mattias Ekholm being amongst those 9 players. Lucky for them, they don't play until Sunday, so they have a couple more days to recover. And as per some of their recent player interviews, they're all fine. So we'll see there if they're really walking around injured or if they'll be ready to roll in their game 1 against the Kings. LA sees Trevor Moore, Adrian Kemp, and Philip Deneau, as well as Tanner Jeannot on the IR. Some pretty big names for them, but I'm not seeing anything that would indicate them being out for this series or for this first game. This could change as the game is still a few days away, but I think things are looking up for all of them. I think things should be good for them. So we should see more Kemp, Deneau, and even Jeannot back into the lineup for this series for sure, and most likely for game 1. Personally, I don't think things are looking too great for Edmonton, despite the positivity being emitted from the team. I was reading earlier that Connor McDavid was saying, despite the injuries, they're ready to roll and feeling confident coming into this series. I say their last 2 games against LA say the opposite of that. I don't think they're ready at all. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see when that puck drops. Looking at the goaltending, it wasn't the greatest for Edmonton, but nothing different from last season except kind of a decline in Stewart's stats. I don't remember his stats from last season, but this one he finished the season with a 2.81 goals against average and only a .896 save percentage. It's not very reassuring coming into the first round of the playoffs against a team like LA, who also has a goaltender in Darcy Kuemper, who had a fantastic season, being 2.02 goals against average and a .921 save percentage. Definitely amongst one of the tops in the leagues for goaltending this season. All things are pointing to LA in this one, to me. They're sitting as the underdog still. Yeah, those odds haven't changed from what I'm looking at plus 110. And rightfully so. I mean, they're going up against the Edmonton Oilers, who kind of did the impossible by pushing a Game 7 last season in the Stanley Cup Finals. Although they lost, they still made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, pushed that Game 7. So they have that playoff experience under their belt. They're probably coming into this one with minimal nerves, if any, at all. They're still a very strong team, even with these injuries. But I'm going to have to side with LA in this one. If they can keep the same pace that they did all season, which is what got me to focus on them a bit more this year, they should keep this one close and close it out in 6 games, maybe less. But I'm taking the LA Kings at plus 110 to close out this series. All right, let's take a gander to the Eastern Conference here. The first series that we're going to discuss will be the Battle of Ontario, Toronto versus Ottawa. So the Battle of Ontario is back. I can see this one going Game 7s, quite honestly. It's unfortunate for me to admit this, but the Toronto Maple Leafs are my team since I was a kid. So we might either hear some really biased opinions or some harsh statements to the team that has caused me nothing but heartbreak over and over again since I was a child. But I think it's still going to be a very, very exciting season. So let's take a look into it. Toronto's made the playoffs 9 times in the last 10 seasons, only winning, I believe, 1 series of those 10 seasons. With the rest being, as all hockey fans will know, should know, first-round exits. Ottawa Senators have made the playoffs only twice in the last 10 seasons. This is their first playoff appearance since 2018, and rightfully so, as this team has been doing all the right things to get them where they are today. I believe the future is looking very bright for Ottawa right now, especially with the acquiring of Linus Ullmark in the previous offseason leading up to this season. So the way they've been playing, the acquisitions that they've had, not only in goaltending but on the offense and defense, the future looks very bright for them. Hurts for me to say that as a Leafs fan, but the future does look very bright for Ottawa. These teams faced off 3 times this season, and of course, Ottawa won all 3. The first being a shutout for Ottawa, then 2-1 and 4-2 wins against Toronto. There are really no notable injuries. Ottawa sees Thomas Chabot on the day-to-day, but we should expect to see him back in the lineup. The Maple Leafs see Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Jake McCabe, and David Kemp on the day-to-day, with Pacioretty on the IRLT, but I don't really care for Pacioretty too much. I was reading articles today. Ekman-Larsson and McCabe state that they are ready to roll for Game 1, but Kemp's status is still undetermined. I don't think we'll see him in Game 1, maybe not Game 2. I'll have to read up more on that once more information comes out and is released. But as of right now, I don't think that he'll play in Game 1. Looking at goaltending, surprisingly, the Leafs are starting Anthony Stolarz. I personally thought they were going to start Wall, but they're bringing Anthony Stolarz. And his stats show why. I mean, he's coming into the series with a 2.14 goals against average and a .926 save percentage. So, rightfully so, kind of earned this starting position. So, we'll see how he pans out in Game 1. Linus Ullmark had a bit of a decline, in my opinion, compared to last season. Although still an amazing goaltender, one of my favorites amongst the league currently right now. He's coming into this one with a 2.72 goals against average and a .909 save percentage. So, things are looking okay for him. Save percentage is good. Goals against are kind of shaky, but we'll see. We'll see for the Toronto team filled with snipers. Like I said earlier, I definitely see this series going to Game 7. And although the future looks bright for Ottawa, it's tough to say this because it could most likely bite me in the ass. I do see Toronto taking their rare first round win in this series. They are currently sitting at, they dropped them minus 192. They're minus 184 when I was looking this morning, but they're minus 192 now to win the series. And although it makes my heart race and my stomach turn a million times, I got to stick with my Leafs here. I think they're going to win it in 6, most likely 7 games, and hopefully not blow up another Game 7 or series lead. We're going with the Toronto Maple Leafs to beat the Ottawa Senators here. All right, next up in the Eastern Conference, we have Tampa Bay versus Florida. So along with the Battle of Ontario in this conference, we have the Battle of Florida. Should be an absolutely thrilling series, quite honestly, just as thrilling as the Battle of Ontario. Will be another interesting one, as I just said. We have the Bolts taking on the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers have made the playoffs 7 times in the last 10 seasons, with the last, of course, getting them the Stanley Cup. They are not a first-round exit team, and despite being a bit of a shakier season, in my opinion, they are expected for a deep run, and rightfully so. Tampa Bay finished their season without longtime captain Steven Stamkos on the roster. First season without him. But they showed us that they're still a top-tier team in this league regardless. The Bolts have made the playoffs 9 times in the last 10 seasons. They've won 2 Stanley Cups back-to-back. They took first-round exits the last 2 years, so this year they're kind of hoping for something different, a bit of a turnaround here, and to go for somewhat of a deep run. Going to be definitely challenging, even more so against the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, but we'll see. We'll see how this one goes. This series this season for them is tied at 2-2. They faced off 4 times, but both wins from TB were 4-1 and a 5-0 shutout, so that's definitely something to take into consideration there. Florida is going into this one without one of their top defensemen in Aaron Ekblad, as he's still facing a suspension from the league, and without difference maker, of course, Matthew Tkachuk. 2 big losses for them, but still a talent-stacked team to say the least. Tkachuk is still facing some injury issues from the 4 Nations tournament. They said that they were going to keep him out for the rest of the season to kind of rest him and let him recover so that he'd be ready for playoffs. I don't think he'll be ready for this first game, if at all this first series. But I don't know. These Tkachuk boys are really tough. Hell, even in the Battle of Ontario, expect Brady Tkachuk to be throwing his body around like crazy and be tossing guys around. It's going to be a very, very physical series in the both of them. But looking back to Tampa Bay versus Florida, without those 2 guys, it's a big impact. It's a big impact for them. But they seem to be panning out pretty decently without them so far for the rest of the season, or for at least the last part of their season there. Tampa sees Bjorkstrand out with a lower body injury, as well as Mitchell Chaffee along with Luke Glendening on the day-to-day status, but they're both expected not to play. Shouldn't be too big of an issue for Tampa. Honestly, they're still a very stacked team regardless without either of those three players. Bjorkstrand was a great addition to them in the free agency, I believe, is when they acquired him. But even without him, Chaffee or Glendening, they should still, without ease, make this a very competitive series. Looking at the goaltending, Florida has a GOAT in Sergei Bobrovsky in the net, who's coming into this series with a 2.44 goals against average and a .906 save percentage. Andrei Vasilevsky, also another GOAT currently in this league for goaltenders, takes the edge in stats here. He's coming into this series with a 2.18 goals against average and a .921 save percentage. Not much going by either of these guys, if anything at all. I might get some hate for this take, but we're going to cut right to the chase here. I see Florida taking a first-round exit this year. I see Tampa as being the stronger team on paper, and honestly the more grittier one, especially without Matthew Tkachuk for the Panthers and even Aaron Ekblad in their corner. So I see Tampa Bay coming out on top in this one. They're seeing no notable injuries. They have the same team that just beat Florida 5-1 the other day. I know that's only one game, and it was a regular season game at the end of the season, and the playoffs are technically a new season, but I'm sticking with the Tampa Bay Lightning here, taking the underdogs. They are still minus 102. The odds haven't changed on that one. So yeah, I'm taking Tampa Bay Lightning to beat the Florida Panthers in this first series there. All right, this is going to be a quick one. Quite honestly, Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. Straight to the point. I don't even feel like we need to get into the stats for this. Forget the stats. Forget the injuries. Washington is the stronger team roster-wise, goaltending-wise, with the buzz and hype of having the new current leading goal scorer of all time in Alex Ovechkin. Montreal could show us something special, especially with them bringing up, Ivan Demidov to the roster late this season. I would assume he's going to be playing in these playoffs. But I do not believe that they deserve to be in the playoffs, as they were battling for the wildcard spot with Columbus, who were playing for Johnny Hockey, rest in peace, and his brother, rest in peace. But Carolina decided to sit all their starters and give Montreal basically a free ticket to the playoffs over Columbus with a 4-2 win over Carolina just the other day. And honestly, screw Carolina for that. I cannot believe that they sat their entire roster, not their entire roster, but basically all their big names, majority of their guys that would have kept it competitive and actually could have secured them a win. They sat them. They sat them and said, "Hey, Montreal, you don't need to earn it. Here's a free win. You're in the playoffs. Good for you. Screw Carolina. Screw everyone on the Carolina Hurricanes except for Freddie Anderson. We love Freddie Anderson. We can never hate on Freddie Anderson." So for that alone, I'm sitting with Washington to win this series at minus 275. The odds have not changed there from earlier this morning when I was looking at them. And most likely, I think they'll do it in 4 or 5 games. I hope they get the sweep. I really hope they do. I think they will. They're winning this series, and currently, they're my favorite to win the cup. Washington Capitals, minus 275 to win the series against Montreal Canadiens. Lock that in. Okay, now we're moving into our final series in the Eastern Conference and the final series to discuss in these 2025 NHL playoffs. It's Carolina Hurricanes versus the New Jersey Devils. So, although it is screw Carolina after the move that they pulled that I just discussed to basically give Montreal a free ticket to the playoffs, this should be another interesting series. Carolina has made the playoffs 7 times in the last 10 seasons with deep runs in the last 4 seasons going to the conference semifinals or finals. They haven't seen a first-round exit since 2020, so they're used to having some deep runs here. New Jersey has made the playoffs 3 times in the past 10 seasons. They missed the playoffs last year. They went to the conference semifinals the year before that, and then went 4 years without a playoff appearance before any of that. So this is only their second playoff appearance since their last in 2018. So a little bit of unfamiliar grounds for them, especially with this roster, but I think that they should handle themselves pretty well. The series between these two teams, this season is tied at 2-2, with each game being a 2-goal differential. Besides their last, Besides their last, with Carolina taking the most recent win. They haven't played each other since December 2024, I believe is what I saw. I could be very wrong on that, but I'm pretty certain that that's what I saw. So this should be a pretty interesting one. Two teams that are kind of unfamiliar with each other's play styles if they haven't played each other since December. So we'll see. Looking at the Devils, Jack Hughes is still out on the long-term injury reserve for the Devils. Other than that, the only big notable injury is Jack Hughes. The rest are, of course, still shown on the IR. They were scratched for rest, of course, in their last game against Montreal. I just get so upset even thinking about it. I don't even want to talk about it. Even any topic that brings it up just pisses me off. But let's move on. Carolina is the same. As I just stated there, fully healthy team, fully healthy New Jersey coming into this one. I think I just mixed up talking about injuries for Carolina when I was actually should have been talking about New Jersey. But let's rewind. No notable injuries for the Devils except Jack Hughes. No notable injuries for Carolina. Two fully healthy teams ready to roll and ready to put on a very exciting series. Looking at the goaltending, it's pretty even. Jacob Markstrom is coming into this one with a 2.50 goals against average and a .900 save percentage. Carolina has two great goalies to rely on, but it looks like they're sticking with the vet who has more playoff experience and honestly one of my top favorite goalies of all time, Frederik Andersen. He finished the season and is coming into this series with a 2.5. Whoa, 1 second. I messed up right there. Let me just confirm my stats right here. I can say this. He finished the season with a .899 save percentage and a 2.50 goals against average, believe in whatever. I believe. All right, Carolina just switched it up, actually. They're starting Pyotr Kochetkov in net. Still a great goalie. I would personally start Frederik Andersen myself, but I don't run the team. Pyotr's coming into this one with a 2.60 goals against average and a .897 save percentage. So maybe they're resting Freddie for game 2, game 3. I don't know. Maybe something happened in a morning skate today. I think that they should, and if they're smart, they will start Frederik Andersen. But regardless, as I said, two great goalies to rely on in this one. So shouldn't be too much of a worry for them with either goaltender starting. I see the series going back and forth, pushing to at least game 6, possibly a game 7. It's truly going to come down to the goaltending, who's going to stand taller, who's going to be more of a brick wall. And other than that, their defense and offense is looking pretty even on paper, in my opinion. So it just comes down to the question, who will be able to defend the crease better? I have some hate for Carolina right now, especially with them changing the starting goaltender from Frederik Andersen to Pyotr Kochetkov, but I see them as a slightly stronger team that is going to be able to edge this one out in 6 or possibly 7 games, but regardless, I'm most likely going to take them to win this series at -280. They have more playoff experience. They go for deeper runs, especially as of late, and with this roster, although a couple new guys, but still pretty much a very familiar roster to this team going into the playoffs. And New Jersey has only made the playoffs 3 times in the past 10 seasons. They went 4 years without a playoff appearance before those 3 appearances. And it's their only second appearance since 2018. So a bit of unfamiliar ground for them. I think the nerves will be a bit higher, but I don't see them edging out this series. I see Carolina taking this one, like I said, in 6 or 7 games. They're sitting at -280 right now, odds-wise. All these odds are from FanDuel, by the way. But yeah, I'm going to take Carolina to close out that series. And that pretty much ends it. Well, that does end it, actually. That's all 8 series for the NHL playoffs right there. So, as we all know, I just want to say that this is the highest paced and one of the most physical sports where absolutely anything can happen. But in playoffs, historically, teams tend to play tighter, more defensively. We should see some decently high shooting shots on goal, but I personally think that we should see some lower scoring games. Lot more closer games with some outlier blowouts. As you know, anything can happen, but I feel pretty comfortable with these takes, and I hope you all do too. If not, you all know where to find me to discuss these further. You know, I'm always on to talk sports, especially hockey. So come on in, Lock City, www.wop.com/Lock City. Join for $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. And as our man Trey says, in this economy, you can't get much for 16 cents a day, but you can get Lock City. Good luck to everyone. Good luck to all of your teams in these NHL playoffs. Good luck to all of your bets. And I'll see you all in the Discord.